All right, listen. This is like, y'all, crazy. Welcome to a very brief but very informative conversation today. And I think it's extremely important. I think it's so extremely important that we talk about what is happening. What is going on? What is happening in the country? What is happening around the world? What is happening with our ministry leaders and what is happening with our world leaders? Like, nobody with eyes, whether you are secular or whether you are Christian, if you are watching this stuff unfold, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. And you can ignore it, you can walk away, act like it's not happening. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, we are seeing this stuff like in real time. And like, it's crazy. It is the craziest thing that I've ever seen. And today we are truly in, it's the leadership crisis that no one wants to talk about. Nobody wants to talk about it, but that's where we are. That's what we are. We are in. We are in a real leadership crisis, and we have to talk about it. We got to talk about what's happening. We got to talk about what we see. And I promise you, I am not going to like belong or prolong this or like stay at this thing for so long. Not today. Not right now, because I know, number one, it's going to have to be something that we all ingest for ourselves, and that we all rationalize, and that, individually we sift through this so that we all can get a clear understanding as to what's going on. And then Ladies and gentlemen, you make your own educated opinion, not your emotional opinion, not your biased opinion. Make your own educated opinion based on what you are reading and what you are seeing, and not what you wish your heart. Well, as you say, well, I feel like. It's not about your feelings, it's not about your emotions, it's about what is true and what is right and what has been done. And let's just like kind of like dive into this because um again, welcome to my unbiased opinion. And that's what this is, where truth meets accountability and silence has no place. If you've been watching me, you understand that I am not a person that sits back and watches all these things happen without saying anything, especially since the passing, the untimely passing of my leader, the late Bishop Derek W. Hutchins Sr. I'm your host, Elder Marcus Sconyers, and today I want to take you into a conversation that is being had on a daily basis. And it's so in front of our faces. And I think that so many people have been afraid to touch the topic, afraid to touch the subject, save for a few. Save for a few. And a lot of you have seen and watched King Jives as he's been breaking this thing down for some years now. I want to say he's been at it for about 12 years, and he's chipping away at the cracks. And yeah, he's comical. And yes, he's a character, but he's also very serious about bringing this information to the forefront because he understands that it is hurting people in the church and that people in the church are being hurt. And for so very long, people have put a moniker on him because he spoke out and he spoke out loud. And I have to say that in that space, he's been a groundbreaker, and it is just the truth. So this isn't today just about politics, and it's not also not just about the church, although it is about politics and the church. It's about a pattern of leadership failure that we see in politics, that we see growing in church and being louder in church. Because in politics it's coming out more, but church has suppressed it. We have a pattern and a generational rule of suppressing everything. We're talking about all the corruption, all the compromising, and everything that is crumbling right before our eyes. So when we are at a state in this whole thing where we're watching the church is in crisis and the pulpit is taking payouts. The pulpit is taking payouts, and it is absolutely crazy. So let's talk about the sacred space before we jump into the political space. Let's talk about the sacred place, the sacred space, because that's who we are. We are the church living in a physical world where the church stuff takes place, but also the political things takes place. So I want to say that there are about three of the largest Black religious institutions in America: the National Baptist Convention, the Baptist Convention, and the Church of God in Christ, that I am a part of. I recently found out, just by way of watching some things that were happening, that this grand Church of God in Christ took a payout of $300,000. And ladies and gentlemen, I do want to bring that to your I do want to bring that to you. So I got to I gotta dive into this. Give me just a moment. I'm gonna add something here. I'm gonna add something. I'm going to add because I want you all to see this. It blew my mind, but it was something that needed to be said and something that needed to be spoken of. So let's do it. I'll be right back. Hold on.
and said there's no way in the world we going into Target where black people were spending $12 million a day. We said to Target, you got to do four things in order for us to walk into that store. Is that you got to invest $250 million in the black banks. Number two, you got to honor what you said to George Floyd's family and invest $2 billion in the black business. Number three, you got 27 of these stores on white campuses, but not one at a HBCU. You ought to partner with 6 HBCUs with their business programs so that young people will be able to scale their business and do a national franchise. We said to you that you've got to reimagine what DEI is, and absolutely 16 weeks later, you didn't deliver to us. Even after we made your stock drop, even after the CEO salary was cut by 42%, even after you lost $12 billion in valuation, but you thought you was going to go around me and go to the National Baptist Convention and sell out for $300,000. Are you crazy to think that we going to sell out for chump change? You must not know who we are. Our Father is rich in houses.
I had to come back in on this as to what he just said. He says that you think that you would sell us out for $300,000, and you have to understand where he is coming from, and he's going to break it down even more because a part of that $300,000, ladies and gentlemen, the black community in the United States of America gives or were giving to Target over $4 billion a year, because we as a community were spending $12 million a day with Target, which equals up to over $4 billion a year. And they gave Church of God in Christ, the National Baptist Convention, and another Baptist, I want to say just the General Baptist Convention, but these are all the black churches, right? The large black churches. I see and understand that the Methodists, the CME and the AME had no part of that. They were not about to sell themselves back to the 19th century. They were not about to do it, to the 18th century to be exact, for $300,000. And furthermore, listen to what else he had to say about this.
In 1961, the National Baptist Convention was meeting, and they did not want to support a young preacher from Georgia named Martin Luther King. They said, you speaking too loud about civil rights. We don't want you to do all of that. Just preach and sit down. Don't march. Don't make a stand. Don't challenge the government. And as a
just preach and sit down. That sounds so familiar. It sounds like when Donald Trump and his cohorts were telling football players just throw the football and shut up. Wow.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Gardner Taylor walked out of that church and started the Progressive Baptist Convention, where we come in full circle. And I need you to know it wasn't just the National Baptist of America, it was also the National Baptist of USA. It was also the Missionary Baptist. It was also the Church of God in Christ. And the $300,000 was not per institution. They gave them Negroes $75,000 for them to just sit down and roll over. Not me, Jack. I called the president of the National Baptist Convention.
$75,000, ladies and gentlemen, out of $4 billion per year is like 0.0000006. It's not even a 0.1 or a 0.01 percentage. I know people in my family who make $75,000 a year. I know people in my family who make $300,000 a year. Like, that is pennies and a drop in the bucket to sell us out to a corporation that dropped everything at the voice of one person And to me, that says that we are complicit by doing exactly what we are standing against. You're always going to have those people who like remind you of some of the things or the accounts that you had that were riding, that were on the Underground Railroad with Harriet Tubman, who turned around because they were scared of massa. And she said, if you're gonna go, go, but keep your mouth closed. But don't if you are afraid to move forward because you want to go with the status quo, or if you are afraid to move forward out of fear of retaliation for you standing up for the truth, then this isn't the journey that you need to be on. You need to get back to the back of the bus, like you where you started at. Let's move on.
I said, Rev, we can't go out like that. We are selling ourselves short. He said, Jamal, give me a couple of days. Let me get the board together. I said, bro, you can get your board together, but Sunday morning I'm going to the mic and I got to say something. And you got to give me something to work with. He said, Pastor Bryant, give me a couple of days and I will do it. I said, you got 1 week to send me in writing that the Baptist Convention stands with the boycott, stands with the oppressed, stands with the marginalized, stands with the nameless and faceless people who are on the front line. $75,000 Baptist Convention, I'll write you a check. You can't sell yourself out for $75,000.
Let me tell you something. You can say what you want to. You can say what you want to about Jamal Bryant. You can talk about him. You can talk about his ways. You can talk about his infidelities, his mistakes, all that stuff. But he is speaking loud facts and the truth when you have these tongue speakers who are being complicit in everything that this administration is doing, every single thing that this administration is doing. Do I agree with everything that Pastor Jamal Bryant does? Absolutely not. I don't agree with everything that this administration is doing. I didn't agree with everything that the Democrats were doing. But what am I going to do? Swap the witch for the devil? That is exactly what we did. We did not stand up. We did not count. We voted wrong, and the votes were also manipulated. And I'm going to tell you all this: the next election is going to be run on algorithms and artificial intelligence, and that is how they are going to continue to do it. They are going to use algorithms to go at the most people who feel like they are marginalized because it's a populist theory or populist ideology, to make people who have even more than you have feel like they don't have anything. And that's who they are going to target, and that is who they are going to send into an uproar, and they are going to win or try to win the next election by AI and algorithms. You can record this, you can keep this in your memory. Watch what happens. Watch what happens. So yes, they sold us out for $300,000 from the Target Corporation, and that's $300,000 that was shared. $300,000 that was shared amongst these. So I'm just looking at who authorized under the Church of God in Christ to take $75,000 from Target, and where did it go? You get more money than that in an offering. $75,000. I can't even imagine the thought process that goes behind sitting at a table, sitting with the CEO of Target, and him telling you, or that whole corporation or that board telling you, okay, can we make this go away for $300,000? $300,000? Oh my God. Somebody, anybody, somebody got to tell me something, because this is crazy. Reports suggest, really, basically, after reading all those reports, suggest that this is basically that it was the play out being split, $75,000 per organization, with little to no public explanation. Nobody is saying anything. We haven't heard anything. We don't know a thing on how those funds would be used or why the timing was so strategic. Here's the hard truth, ladies and gentlemen. When the church trades prophetic boldness for corporate funding, it stops being the voice of the people and it becomes the property of the sponsor. We have just sold ourselves out to target, or the leadership who we esteem so high has just sold us out and we have become the property of the sponsor. I don't know why there are no bishops in the Church of God in Christ who are not standing up and speaking out against this. I don't know why it has to be Jamal Bryant, a Methodist Pentecostal preaching Negro, who goes over to the Baptist church and continues to preach the same way, bringing our method of preaching into their church, and they are the ones that were speaking. But it reminds me of how the Baptists were the forefront. The Methodists were the forefront in the civil rights movement. The Methodists, the Baptists, we were quiet, just keep our mouth closed. And that kind of thinking still goes on today, hundreds of years later. Hundreds of years later. But let me tell you this, the crisis doesn't end in the sanctuary. It doesn't. We're looking at not only in the church, in the secular world, but also in the church. I see it in the church now, but I'm seeing it in the secular world. We're looking at the rise of people that are unqualified, because it just doesn't stop in the sanctuary. It doesn't end there. In fact, it's mirrored in and it's amplified in our national leadership. So let's talk about what's happening that led up to the 2024 election. Let's talk about that. Donald Trump, the former president and the current forerunner, we're talking about 2024. He surrounded himself with what some are calling, even in his own party, the most unqualified, underqualified, ideologically dangerous, and populist driven inner circle. And that is what we are seeing in modern day political memory. Amongst the key players floated around for major roles was Pete Hegseth. Now let's talk about Pete. He was a Fox News personality. He had no formal background in education policy. He was rumored to be the top pick for Secretary of Education, and Kristi Noem, the embattled governor of South Dakota. Remember, they were going to pick him for the Secretary of Education, but it changed. It flipped. And Kristi Noem, she was the embattled governor from South Dakota. You know, the one that they were talking about that said that she would shoot dogs or puppies. Or I don't know, something like that. She did that. If I didn't say that right, don't hold it to me. She not only made headlines for shooting her family dog, because that's what she did, but she also has been accused of misusing government resources. She fabricates accomplishments, and she peddled a toxic blend of image-first leadership. She's the one that looks like the Barbie doll with the clip-in hair extensions to make it look like her hair was full, along and stuff like that. And she got a hair color. They call her the botched Barbie or something. I don't know if she's botched. Well, I do know she wears just as much makeup and eyelashes as the next glammed up doll. All right. So I don't have no problem with that. That's how she wants to wear herself. That's fine with me. But what the church and the country now share, I want to bring that all together. In both cases, what we're looking at is we're looking at the church world and the political sphere. And we are witnessing the same root issue in the church world as in the political sphere. And it seems as if the political sphere or the secular sphere is overshadowing the church sphere, and the church is trying to emulate what they see the world doing. There is a failure of moral leadership on all sides. There is a hunger and a thirst for power over principle, wherein as churches should be a hunger for thirst and righteousness for his name's sake. And there's a dangerous comfort level with celebrity affiliations over competence. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to be educated. You don't have to know what you're doing. You just have to be a celebrity, just a celebrity. And a lot of pastors and bishops are chasing after that and not putting forth the moral character that we need in the church today. It is a big failure, a big failure. These aren't just lapses, ladies and gentlemen. You got to understand that. These are calculated choices. Everything that's being done, everything that we see, these are calculated choices. So when churches accept silence for checks and when governments promote charisma over character, the people, our families, our communities, your communities, our youth, we are left without a leader and we are going to fall into disillusionment. All you got to do is look on social media, you'll see it everywhere. The people are disillusioned. It's everywhere. You have people that are disillusioned and you have a lot of people that are delusional, losing their entire minds over a man, whether he be in the church or whether he be out of the church. So I want to pause by asking the question and see if anyone knows the answers. What's at stake? What's at stake? And the second part to that question is, and what should we do? What's at stake and what must be done? Those are some very important questions. What's the real danger? The danger is that we get used to it. We become numb. Hear me. These mass deportations, there's danger in it. But the danger is we become numb. We become comfortable with it and normalize it so that when the next wave comes, you've already become normalized. You've already become normalized to it. We start to normalize dysfunction. That man is highly dysfunctional, completely dysfunctional. I have a question for all the pastors out there that support Donald Trump. I have a real question for you. And then I have a question for your wives. So this is a question, this is one and all for all of y'all. What kind of person cheats on every wife that he has, sleeps with her, has children with her, brings her into the most intimate part of himself, and lies to her, cheats on her, crushes her self-esteem? That's a man that you trust and a man that you follow. Ladies, wives, is that what you all want? Do you trust that man? Who and as we can see, there's so much exposure going around with these married pastors sleeping with men, sleeping with women, taking money. All kinds of things are going on. That's what you trust, and that's what you put your trust in. You put your faith and trust in a man who cannot even be honest with the person that he's most intimate with. It's insane to me. It's insane. We normalize dysfunction. We become desensitized to poor leadership in the pulpit and in the presidency. We become desensitized to it. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. We accept mediocrity. And I won't even call it mediocre. We accept subpar. It's not even mediocre, it's subpar. We accept subpar leadership in the pulpit, and we are accepting subpar leadership in presidency and governance. You don't want your children making B's, D's, and F's. But I believe, even in this, that there is a remnant of people who aren't afraid to say, this is not okay. I'm not the only one. I can't be. Not in the house of God, this is not okay, and not in the White House, not on our watch. And I'm watching people rise up, watching people stand up. I'm watching it happen all over the country. We have to find a call to action. We got to jump into action, ladies and gentlemen. We have to. We don't have a choice if we are going to survive. If you are a believer, then you got to demand transparency. If you are a believer in any ministry, you have to demand transparency from the leadership. It's got to be done. If you are a citizen of the United States of America. In these whole Americas, if you are a member, if you are a citizen of the United States of America, then you should demand competence and character from the politicians that serve you, that you elected. And if you are a voter, don't just vote out of your frustration and or your emotions. You got to vote for your future and for the future of the children that are coming after you. If you are a leader, you should be asking yourself daily, am I serving the people or just using them? A lot of these leaders don't even care because they already know that they're using you. Listen, thank you for joining my unbiased opinion. It's been a pleasure having you. I want you to share this episode. I want you to start discussion. I want you to start challenging the silence. I'm Elder Marcus, and I'm signing off. And I'm going to leave y'all with a little bit more of this right here.
Spending $12 million a day. We said to Target, you got to do 4 things in order for us to walk into that store. Is that you got to invest $250 million in the black banks. Number 2, you got to honor what you said to George Floyd's family and invest $2 billion in the black business. Number 3, you got 27 of these stores on white campuses, but not one at a HBCU. You ought to partner with 6 HBCUs with their business programs so that young people will be able to scale their business and do a national franchise. We said to you that you've got to reimagine what DEI is, and absolutely 16 weeks later, you didn't deliver to us. Even after we made your stock drop, even after the CEO salary was cut by 42%, even after you lost $12 billion in valuation, but you thought you was going to go around me and go to the National Baptist Convention and sell out for $300,000. Are you crazy to think that we going to sell out for chump change? You must not know who we are. Our Father is rich in houses and land. In 1961, the National Baptist Convention was meeting, and they did not want to support a young preacher from Georgia named Martin Luther King. They said, you speaking too loud about civil rights. We don't want you to do all of that. Just preach and sit down. Don't march. Don't make a stand. Don't challenge the government. And as a consequence, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Gardner Taylor walked out of that church and started the Progressive Baptist Convention, where we come in full circle. And I need you to know it wasn't just the National Baptist of America, it was also the National Baptist of USA. It was also the Missionary Baptist. It was also the Church of God in Christ. And the $300,000 was not per institution. They gave them Negroes $75,000 for them to just sit down and roll over. Not me, Jack. I called the president of the National Baptist Convention. I said, Rev, we can't go out like that. We are selling ourselves short. He said, Jamal, give me a couple of days. Let me get the board together. I said, bro, you can get your board together, but Sunday morning I'm going to the mic and I got to say something. And you got to give me something to work with. He said, Pastor Bryant, give me a couple of days and I will do it. I said, you got 1 week to send me in writing that the Baptist Convention stands with the boycott.
Beach.